Hi, my name is Cameron Greenhagen, and I am the owner and developer of the Wilson Livery Stables. This is a building that I purchased this year and started our remodel back in June. And this is a building that was built around 1890. It's a very unique building in the history of Tahlequah, and the main reason is in 1895 there was a great fire that happened. Burnt most of the structures down here in Tahlequah, and the interesting part is it actually started in this building. As we started our remodel, we ended up uncovering all these treasures of this building. One of the unique things is this wall here and these rock walls that you see, and these are the actual original walls from the fire. We've uncovered the ventilation, the old horse rings, the charred wood, hay, and so it's quite interesting. And as we remodeled this building, we even found unique items from the times, from liquor bottles to Welch's grape juice to a cowboy boot to a watering bucket and many other neat treasures. And so to pay homage to the building, we decided to display these and let everyone share in, kind of what we found. Some of the unique things that we did in the building is we really wanted to showcase the history of Tahlequah, and there's so many stories that this building have that we wanted to bring it back. So we tried to use age-appropriate materials, from the original barn doors to milled down sycamore wood to barn wood, as you can tell, just to expose many of the unique things in this building. So one of the unique things about the building was this elevator. It is not original to the building, but it was added around 1900s. Super unique, super interesting. What we have learned is that if it's not the oldest elevator in Tahlequah, it is one of the oldest elevators in Cherokee County, if not Oklahoma. What's amazing is it still works great. If you're interested, let's go on an elevator ride.
Yeah.
How this thing functions is this is actually the braking system. And so as we take the brake off, we'll actually start going downstairs. Pulley system is quite unique. It's amazing how these old elevators function. This is from the Kansas City Elevator Company. Another interesting thing about the building is it takes us down to the basement. As we go down a bit further, we will step off into the basement, which again is, the majority of these walls were original walls, and as you can tell, you can see some of the original rock structures. As we step back here, granted we've remodeled a lot of this with new plumbing, new electrical, but here are some of the support structures. I mean, it's amazing when you look at these old beams, and if you step back here, you can see this thing almost looks like a C. Unbelievable how they used to build these things. It's been taken out, but this used to be where the boiler would set, and this is how they would heat the building. We ended up pouring concrete here and here, restoring this original rock structures, but again, this is where the boiler room would set. To me, what's unique about this building is this basement. I think when they rebuilt around 1900, they ended up refortifying this and pouring old concrete over the original, not only as a stem wall, but over the original rock, just to give it the support for the concrete structure on the second floor. For future reference and future use of the building, it was important for us to get this cleaned up, to rebuild the stairwell. It was an old stairwell and staircase that literally just came down. You'd bump your head trying to get down here. So we rebuilt it ADA compliant because we're hoping for a cool restaurant, a cool brew pub, a cool tap room, something of the sorts to come and utilize this great resource, this great building. And in doing that, we wanted to go ahead, clean this up, have this ready for storage, refrigeration. You can even do a cool little bar speakeasy down here. A lot of different uses, but it's weatherproof and it is ready to go. Oh, one other unique thing that we did is, it wasn't required, but it was just important to me as we were developing this, is to, again, you heard me say earlier about making this building ready for the next 100 years. And so some of the things that we did is we re-supported these beams. We added all these steel structures and all these bolts. It could actually withstand a herd of elephants upstairs now. We ended up building this wall here just to kind of separate the crawl space, again, in hopes that a restaurant or something of the sorts would come down here and utilize this building. What we're really striving to do here, and one of the reasons I purchased this, is not only to do something unique for Tahlequah, but we are really trying to recruit a neat restaurant, a local bar, pub, brew pub, something like that. And as we were doing this, we knew that we would need to comply to some of the ADA requirements. And so one of the neat things is this used to be the hallway to a couple bathrooms back here. But because of ADA, we ended up expanding the hallways, and then we remodeled our bathrooms. And we tore these completely out and came back with kind of a unique style, playing off the urban farmhouse, the stables. We are naming this building the Stables, and so we wanted to play off of that. This is the men's restroom, completely remodeled. Everything was tore out and brought back to basically ADA compliance. And then again, here is the women's restroom, playing again off the urban farmhouse with the colors and the bar, and then of course the old granite countertops. One of the restoration projects this was actually an original delivery door. I know that it was used for the carpet store. They would haul big carpet rolls in here, roll them around, and they would stack them on this wall. We ended up closing this off, and one of the things that was on the back of this building was an old chimney that was dilapidated and about ready to fall over. So we ended up taking it apart brick by brick and utilizing these old original bricks from the chimney. As you can tell, we have Coffeyville bricks in here, just quite interesting. And we also utilized, again, age-appropriate beams. This is oak that is over 100 years old. One of the things that we did in the building is we had uncovered this original picture from what the building looked like when it was first built. And as you can tell here, this was the original rock structure. We're not sure when this was taken. We know it was around probably 1893, 1894. But as you can tell, this was a one-story building, rock structure. Had an old living quarters. The gentleman's name who built this, his name was John Wilson, and then so it was named the John Wilson Livery Stables. And in restoring this, what we really wanted to do was, this was the storefront, and this was Muskogee Avenue. But what we did here is we wanted to kind of showcase and go back in history a little bit and showcase this wall of maybe what the storefront actually looked like. And so we were very careful on what we did. We actually hired an artist to paint the original letters of what they look like. We restored the rock wall to what it used to look like, and then as you can tell, we had a barn door here, so we actually put back an old barn door. But very unique to the building. So when I had purchased the building, this was actually Edie's store, and it was a retail store for basically 25 years. And so this wall was completely plastered over, and it also was covered up with sheetrock. So as we started demoing this, we kind of poked our head around the corner and noticed that there was this unbelievable old rock structure. And so as we peeled back the layers of the building, we ended up uncovering this original wall. The majority of it, though, was covered in plaster. And so we literally chipped off the old plaster the best we could, and came back, reset most of the burnt rocks, and remortared it, put bonding agent in there to make it structurally sound. Well, as we were tearing this out, we noticed the ventilation, and this was the original ventilation, and then the horse rings on where they used to tie up the horses. And so back then it was a dirt floor, but actually a horse would be tied up here. Ventilation would come through on both sides to keep the animals cool. We discovered hay in this wall, which was super unique. The most interesting thing to me was the original burnt wood and charred wood from the actual fire in 1895. And so we were very careful. It was very labor intensive and quite expensive to restore this wall. But as we restored it, the mentality was, let's build this and restore it for the next 100 years. One of the major restoration projects was the floor. It was super important to restore this back to basically its glory days. And as you can tell in the detail, this floor tells a story. I can only imagine the footsteps and the stories and the things that had happened in this building. We were very careful. This was old yellow pine, and so one of the important things we wanted to do is go back to as close as possible to the original wood. And so we actually had this yellow pine stripped down, tongue and groove, to match the exact dimensions of the original wood. Quite labor intensive, took us many months to do this, very tedious, but as you can tell, we went through the parts that we had to that was just too destroyed, and we replaced those with the new tongue and groove. Another thing that was important was we wanted to do this right, and we wanted to restore this correctly. It was just super important, again, for not only the history and paying homage to the building, but it was just the way that to me, it needed to be done and developed. One of the other interesting remodeling projects of this building is it was a little bit difficult to decide what we wanted to do with the front facade of the building. Some of the previous uses of the building is it was actually a Perselli's back in the early 1900s, and that was kind of a, if I remember correctly, it was kind of a hardware store. But then around 1947, it became Smith Floor Covering. And above here, there were no windows. It was just literally covered with an awning. And as we started tearing off the front of the building, we had noticed there was an old stucco sign that had said Smith Floor Covering. Super unique, but one of the battles was we kind of really wanted to save that. It was a neat part of the building's history, and as I was developing this project, again, I wanted to pay homage to all the uses of this building. However, we could not save it. It was for the future use of the building. It was just quite pertinent and important to add the windows, to add the natural light into this old building. And so what we ended up doing is we actually tore the complete front of this building off. We came back with all new glass, all new barnwood, back with brand new doors. Some of the other unique things with the building is, again, we wanted to use age-appropriate materials. And one of the unique things we did is these are actually old oak beams that are over 100 years old. And so we built the doorway frame out of 100-year-old oak wood. And as we stepped outside, this was some of the unique things that we wanted to do as well. And as you can step back and you can see, we ended up tearing off this awning like I had said before, but we weren't sure what we wanted to do. And so as we worked through the building, we knew that we wanted to do something age appropriate, something creative, and something that made a statement. And so some of the unique things we did is, actually, if you can see the metal beams and the awnings, these were made out of a 1920s boxcar. You can see, like, these were the top braces. We actually even came up in here and used the old bottom beams. These were actually old railroad tracks, and we actually welded those and had the brackets mounted to those beams. And then, of course, you can see the old barnwood, again playing off the Stables theme. So around 1907, I could be off a couple years, it was either the Crafton or the Wiley family came and purchased this building off of John Wilson after the fire of 1895. Everybody started to rebuild. They weren't sure what they were going to do, and so what they ended up doing was purchasing this from John Wilson. The unique thing is they added the second story on top of this existing structure, and it actually became the first hospital in Tahlequah, which is quite unique and rare. And another unique thing about the building is Dr. Allison's offices are still up there, the original wooden structures, the original claw tub, the sinks. So again, quite interesting history for Tahlequah. So another phase of the construction process was the actually outside wall here. And this building was actually covered in stucco. And as you can tell up above, this came all the way down. When we started the repair, there were a few cracks, a few rocks that were exposed. And as we started tearing back the layers, we ended up noticing this paint. And we kept tearing more and more back. And we ended up finding out that this was actually done in the late 1800s, maybe around 1900, because the stucco was done around 1907. So we know it was done before that. But as you step back, you can see all these unique original paintings. Now, we don't know what a lot of those say, but we wanted to save this. It was quite important, and so we took the complete stucco off all the way down the building. We added basically an age-appropriate barn door, but we sealed and restored all of this paint, which is quite unique. So this was the doorway to the upstairs, which I had said earlier that had become the first hospital in Tahlequah. So as we step upstairs into the stairwell, you can see the original stairwell, the original stucco rock. Quite interesting. Now, we are unsure what we are going to do upstairs. We discussed maybe a boutique hotel, maybe neat offices, condos. We are unsure yet. But as you can tell, very interesting. Again, if these walls could talk. But what ended up happening around, once they completed it again, I believe around 1907, is this front part was the original hospital. These were Dr. Allison's office. They were two brothers. You could actually walk in here. You would come into the doctor's offices. There was one here and then one in here. You see any of this? Because one of the unique things is the old hardware and the original doors. This was the sink that the doctor would wash his hands and get ready to see you. This was the privacy door. Still even has the whole privacy. I'm not sure if you can see that on the door. But then you would walk in here, and this would either be a waiting room or, again, another patient room. And then you would walk over here, again, depending which doctor you were seeing. And then I believe this ended up becoming living quarters after that. I'm not 100% on that, but again, this was one of the doctor's offices as well. And then if you step back in here, this was the common bathroom. And we still have the original claw tub and toilet in here. I'm not sure if you can see this, but this is where you would come to wash. But what I love is the doors, the original sashes, the original hardware, and the upstairs is, again, in phenomenal shape. But as we come back, you can look down the hallway and, again, see all the original ceilings, all the original hardware and doorways. These ended up being, I've heard various stories, ended up being living. One of the unique things is these also became doctor's offices a little bit later on after Dr. Allison. What I did learn is it's been interesting hearing all the stories from the folks in Tahlequah. But one story I had heard was this ended up being a surgery room. So you would come back here, you would come through this door, this would be a waiting room. You would wait for the doctor to see you, and then you would come in here, and then there would be tables here. The doctor would wash his hands here, and then do surgeries here. I could only imagine. But again, quite unique and interesting for the history of Tahlequah. A little rough, as you can tell, we still have a lot of work to do. But super unique. Here are just some other rooms. Now, one of the stories I had heard was one of the ladies at the age of 10, she had pneumonia, and this was in 1944, and she actually spent 4 months up here. Another gentleman, he was around 91, he came through, and some of his first doctor's offices were in this upstairs here. Well, that wraps up the tour today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. I hope you found that quite interesting. And if you know of anyone that has any old photos of the building, any memorabilia, any stories, please get a hold of myself or either the Main Street Association. But again, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it.